Okay, good morning. We're going to get started. It is February 3rd, 2021. It's 9:30 a.m., at least by my clock, which is fairly accurate. And if you're able to, I would ask you to stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for a beautiful day and a wonderful day, Lord, and we thank you for being able to gather here today and do the business of this authority, dear Heavenly Father, and we just pray that you give us the wisdom and knowledge to make the best decisions possible. Lord, we lift up the men and women in the armed services that protect us and serve us throughout the land, and we lift up our first responders here at home and all around the United States, Lord. We ask that you keep your hand of protection upon them as they do their best to protect us. We lift up our government, Lord, to you in everything that they do. And we ask all these things now in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I shouldn't say this because it'll probably get quoted somewhere, but it is so nice to pledge allegiance to the flag. Everybody stands up, loud voices, very, very nice. I want to welcome all our guests, but before I do, we have two commissioners that are going to be joining us at least for this year, maybe in perpetuity, but Commissioner Bill Truex from Charlotte County and Commissioner George Cruz from Manatee County, and I know them both, and they are a very positive, great addition to our board, so welcome, fellas. With that, we're going to do you want to do your remarks before or after we circulate through the crowd, Pat?
Certainly.
Okay, and we're going to start with you, and if you would just tell us who you are and what your intentions and how you feel about it.
That's a lot, sir. Handling authority staff.
Richard Anderson, authority staff. I have no intentions.
Terry Holcomb with authority staff, and I can guarantee all my intentions are good.
Brian. Mike Coates with Water Supply Authority.
Ken Doherty, Charlotte County Commissioner.
Sydney Mangle of Purvis Gray.
Brent Cavallari with AECOM.
Katie Gilmore of Manatee County.
Mark Simpson, Manatee County.
Morning, David Cash, Sarasota County.
Kevin Morris, now with Manatee County.
I Ford Ritz with the Water Authority.
Mike McGee with Black and Beach.
Don Rawson, Dallas.
Jean Stacio, Charlotte County. Heather Ripley, Kinley Moore.
Doug Ekman, Kinley Moore.
Clark Jones, Reese Engineering.
Dorian Popescu, EMK.
Adam Davey, Counsel Engineers.
Morning, Craig Rudy, Charlotte County.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and we knew in advance that your intentions were honorable, except for one or two of you, and we have deputies here for you too.
Careful, Dorian.
Careful, Dorian, that's right. That's Pat, why don't you're the host today, so you get to do the host remarks, and then with your help, we're going to move into the awards and recognitions.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly want to welcome you all to the Peace River facility, and especially the two new board members, although I know you're not new to the authority, and nor are you new to the county, Commissioner Truex and Commissioner Cruz. Welcome. This is your chance. That the board meets every other month. You pass budgets, you pass policy, you fund projects. This is your chance to come see what it's all about and what that all went to, so you can take it back to your constituents, and when they ask you questions, you can verify that the funding went to good infrastructure. So with that, this is a special year. This facility was acquired 30 years ago from General Development, and I know one commissioner was around then, and actually two folks were around then. So you know what happened back in those days, and we've come a long ways in 30 years. We have displays out there showing the differences, and this board will have the opportunity somewhere down the road here this year to burn and rip up the mortgage, which is always a great celebration. So welcome, and Mr. Chairman, we'll move on with the awards.
Yes, and that is because, unless I'm told differently, we have no open to the public parts. Okay, so we're on the awards and recognition section of the agenda. We have a lot of nice things today.
Yes, it's always good to celebrate and take recognition for the achievements that this authority has achieved. And it comes in all areas. You see many of the awards out in the foyer on engineering, operations, maintenance, management, and yes, finance. So it's my pleasure today to recognize one more of the financial awards. Ms. Lee is our finance manager. She's been with us approximately 5 years, and trust me, she's brought us from the ledger days up to electronics and an award-winning authority. So this year, she was once again awarded the Government Financiers Office Association, known as GFOA. The award is Certificate of Achievement and Excellence of Financial Reporting for the authority's CAFR, and you'll be hearing another CAFR report later on today. So it's certainly with my pleasure to thank Ms. Lee for all that. Moving on, we also have in our strategic plan that the board discussed last year, and you'll be having more discussion on that strategic plan update today. One of the primary goals and objectives in that is for more outreach, more public education. So we have a listing of a number of awards that was received over the last couple of months. We both with an outside PR contractor we have, and also internal staff-wise. You can see listed a number of those awards. Our favorite, I guess our otter is out in the other room.
Oh, he's back here.
Oh, there he is. So that is our Otter Safe Water, which we use for recognizing a day without water, promoting conservation. Gets a lot of work with the kids. I know Terry's even made one of the cartoons into a coloring that she can give out to kids so they can color for the smaller age groups. We certainly won awards with the Promotion of Conservation Month, which comes around every April, and the Community Awareness Campaign through the Florida section of the American Water Works Association. So we certainly want to make sure the board's aware that we are implementing a strategic plan in an award-winning way. So with that, Terry and the rest of it have supported. And now we come up to some of the Bittersweet awards and recognitions. Mr. Chairman, if I could ask up to the board whether you want to adopt all three resolutions here in one motion. So we can...
No, let's do them separately because there's years, if not decades, of work involved.
So if I could have Mark. There you are. Mark Simpson's been with Manatee County since 1982. So you'll notice that half the people in this room I don't think were born then. I was. It's amazing the longer you're around how young others get. But he began his career as a lab technician with the water department, and over that 38-year career is now retiring as the deputy director of the utility. So he's seen all aspects, and certainly in his position, he was liaison to the authority. So it's not just that he was taking care of the residents and ratepayers of Manatee County, he was helping to create cooperation and look out over the region. So with all his knowledge and certainly Manatee's expertise, it was greatly appreciated. He has a degree in chemistry and biology from USF, so you can
Go
put your Bulls hat on. Him and his wife Jody have 4 daughters and 2 grandsons, so I'm sure I know what he'll be doing. Oh, 3. Uh-oh. Terry, you get whacked on. Did you have one since last week?
It's brand new, right?
But if I could take just a moment here to read the resolution, and then we'll ask for adoption of it. Whereas Mark Simpson is Deputy Director of the Manatee County Water Utilities and has served the county for over 38 years, and whereas Mr. Simpson has steadfastly provided expertise and counsel as liaison of the county to the authority on matters of regional water supply issues, and where Mr. Simpson's efforts have furthered the reliability of the Manatee County water system and development operation of a regional system to serve the residents of the businesses of Charlotte, DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota counties, and whereas Mr. Simpson has served in the spirit of cooperation toward the authority and its respective members. Now therefore be it resolved, the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Support Authority does hereby express its appreciation to Mark Simpson for his outstanding contributions to the authority, his contributions toward development of a reliable, sustainable, and affordable regional water supply system on behalf of the citizens of Manatee County and our four-county region. Done at Arcadia, Florida, this 3rd day of February 2021. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Let's do it very formally because this is a big deal. And I was right about the decades. I knew yours was at least decades.
Mr.
So,
Chairman.
a motion, please?
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2021-01, recognition of Mark Simpson for distinguished service to the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Truex, a second by Elton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This is your chance. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none. Hearing none. Chair votes aye. Congratulations. That's 4-0 with all of our congratulations. Would anyone like to say anything? Some of us have seen you for a very long time.
Sorry about that.
And this is a good time to bring it up because you're retiring. In my old life, you disagreed with me pretty strongly a couple of times, and I have not forgotten. Good luck to you, my friend. You do a great job. Great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the sentiment, kind words and thoughts. It has been a labor of love. Something that my service, I look at it as my service to our residents, our community, which includes my family and my friends. So always looking out for the best for what's best for all of them, and I appreciate being able to do it in a community such as this where we can come together and express our opinions, though they may be different, but we all do it and work together toward one common goal. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well said. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as we all know, Mark is retiring, and Manatee County found a damn good replacement. Somewhat bittersweet to us, but Kevin will be, well, he already is Manatee County as of this week. So it's a bittersweet moment to be losing Kevin. He started with us in 1999, but we hold hearty that we're not losing him in total. We're going to see him plenty of times and still working together for the good of the region. Him and his wife Laura are totally engaged in their community, which really makes us all proud. And we look at that as a true example and his mentoring and goals to continue that. So Kevin, if you want to come up. And Mr. Chairman, my pleasure, I'll read the resolution. Whereas Kevin Morris has served on the staff of the Peace River Regional Water Supply Authority for 21 years, most recently as engineering and projects manager, and whereas Mr. Morris was instrumental in the completion of the authority's 6 billion gallon reservoir, instrumental in a 39 million gallons a day of new water treatment capacity you see here, and over 70 miles of regional water supply pipeline. He has his fingerprints over all of those projects. Mr. Morris epitomizes the benefits of continuing education and personal improvement, earning an MBA, the Public Works Executive Credential, Certified Public Procurement Officer Credential, Certified Government Finance Manager credential, and many other professional certifications during tenure of his authority. And whereas Mr. Morris supports his local community through volunteer efforts, including Junior Leadership Manatee Board and mentoring high school students in Manatee County. And whereas Mr. Morris has accepted a leadership position as the Deputy Director of Manatee County Utilities, where gladly he will continue to be involved with the authorities, the county's liaison, and regional water supply issues. And where Mr. Morris has always served in the spirit of cooperation for the authority and its respective members. Now, therefore, be resolved, the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority does hereby express its appreciation to Kevin Morris for his outstanding contribution as a member of the authority's staff and his contributions toward development of a reliable, sustainable, and affordable regional water supply system on behalf of the citizens of the Ford County region. Done in Arcadia, Florida, this 3rd day of February 2020. Mr. Chairman.
We'll take a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion to approve Resolution 2021-02, recognition of Kevin Morris for distinguished service to Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Truex, second by Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Kevin, my friend, that goes through 4-0. Although some of us were really going to not vote yes, just to show you how much we love you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor to serve this board for 2 decades. And, you know, one of the things I look at the authority as sort of a band, and Pat is the conductor, and you write the music for him. And so I was privileged to be a trumpet player in Pat's band. And sometimes I would get a chance to do a solo, and I really appreciate those opportunities to put together presentations with video and animations, and those were my solos. And sometimes I hit a bad note, like all music players do. And but the music goes on, and you know, in life we all run into things, and we have to overcome them and move forward. And so for my wife and me, a move to Manatee County to be a little closer to home, it's the right thing for us to do that. So I know that the authority is going to go on and continue to just do great things, and I look forward to being not in the band anymore, but in the audience cheering you on. And Pat, one thing I will say, you know, it was exciting to build everything, but one of the things we learned together, I think, or certainly I learned it, Pat probably already knew it, but it's exciting and difficult to build things, but it's also an enormous challenge to operate and maintain and rehab and reconstruct those same things you built. And so that's a real challenge in the water industry, and I'm just grateful for a team like Manatee County where I can put my services to work, and it's a great team there, and they made me feel very welcome. I left here Friday and I started there Monday, so there was no gap for me. And then I'm back here today, so so thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Pat.
Okay, I'm going to get to do one, and I'll do it from here, but I think that all of us are going to want to talk directly to this. We're on item number 5, Resolution 2021-03, recognition of Commissioner Ken Dougherty for distinguished service to the region as a member of the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors. With that, before we get into anything else, we'll take a motion on that.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that Resolution 2021-03, recognition of Commissioner Ken Dougherty for service to the region as a member of the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Truex, second by Commissioner Langford, and perhaps we have some discussion before we vote on this one.
I would like to.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. You know, Commissioner Dory and I came on to the Board of County Commissioners at the same time, and we have early morning coffee together many mornings, a little less frequently these days because the other hat that I wear, but he brings a lot of enlightenment to me. He's mentored me in a lot of ways. He's done a great job, not only when he was on this authority, but prior to being on this authority. We both take very keen interest in the region, the water, the quality of our water, both drinking water and our estuary. He's done a great job for us, and I know he will continue to be involved as a commissioner in Charlotte County with care and concern over the region. So his expertise will not be lost. It just might be funneled through me a little bit more, but I'm sure he'll still stay involved and keep up with everything. So I thank you for your tutelage and your expertise, and look forward to further mentorship from you, sir.
Next, anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Langford.
Mr. Ken, it's bittersweet seeing you sitting out there, but I watched you sit out there a long time before. You've always had an interest in this authority, and it's shown over the years that you were sitting in the crowd, and then it actually shown much better when you were sitting up there with us. So I know I'm still going to see you at all these meetings, and but it's been an honor to serve with you, and I appreciate the wisdom that you brought to this board, and I hope that you will pass it on as a conduit through Commissioner Truex, and but I know he'll do a good job too. But I enjoyed serving with you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Pat, Doug, anything?
Commissioner, we've been through some interesting times, both when you were off the board and on the board. And I've always appreciated your guidance and your patience and your intellect in assisting us with the issues we have, not just politically, but also on how we were able to do things, at the authority. And also appreciated your friendship. Thank you.
Certainly as an engineer, and it was always interesting watching the marriage of an engineer and accountant at our board meetings. But you came with your ideals, and certainly your biggest objective was the CIP program, and by golly, we achieved it. So thank you.
Commissioner, we met many years ago. We were leading different engineering firms, and you were one of the nicest, smartest, best prepared competitors that I could have come across. You taught me an awful lot. And here, thank you for everything you did, including during your time as chairman, your insistence on a lot of workshops. We all want to thank you for those. Thank you. We have something for you, but first, before that happens, let's take the vote. All those in favor on item number 5 under awards and recognition signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair certainly votes aye. That motion passes 4-0. And we have 2 things for you, a nice proclamation. And this is about 6 pounds, and I think it's solid gold. So this is $10,000 sitting here, buddy. Where do you want us to stay? Yeah.
Good enough. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, sure.
I'll be very brief. I'm Irish, so I get emotional, so I got to be careful. It truly has been an honor to serve on this board. I do remember, Pat, not only the acquisition in '91, but I remember when 4 commissioners in 4 counties, maybe 5 at that time, actually got together and formed the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority in 1981, I believe it was. I was the assistant county administrator in Charlotte County, and there were wild times, there really were. And but the vision that those 4 commissioners had of interconnecting the supplies in our region was phenomenal. And look what we do today. If they could look back and see what's been accomplished by this authority, it's amazing. So it's been an honor to serve on this board, to serve the communities, the citizens of our members and our customers. It's just amazing. So I also want to thank staff. Pat, you and your staff have done a tremendous job and really helped me a lot, and I really appreciate all the assistance and patience, Rachel, that you have with me over the years. So again, thank you very much, sir.
That was all very nice. We're moving on to presentations. The first one is Water 101, a Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority primer, and it's Pat Lehman, Doug Manson, and Mike Coates. We have all three of them trying to help us with this. Yeah, it's for Commissioner Langford. It's for the new commissioners because you and I know everything. So.
And the chairman lets me know he knows everything. Well, no, that's a good thing. Now, good morning once again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We've done this in previous years as the need be. It's called our Water 101, try to inform new members as to who we are, what we've done, and where we might be going. But certainly where we're going is up to the board. We have, you come from 4 different counties, diverse in your residents and demographics, but certainly with common goals as far as water. Commissioner Langford is our long-term member, having served on this board for 10 years now. Commissioner Mayo served on us for 6 years. Commissioner Truax, you've sat on your board, and you've had many discussions on the authority, and I've had discussions with you one-on-one, so it's certainly not new to you by any means. And Commissioner Cruz, welcome to the dunk tank. We're gonna. But our objective today, and if you, I always tell people, how do you respond to a board of four members? Certainly I respond to you, the board members, but we really respond to the 22 commissioners sitting behind you and to the million residents that sit behind those 22 commissioners. So if you ever ask the question, what is the authority and why is your county a member of that authority? Hopefully after this discussion over time, you all come up with a response to that. And some of that response will be common, some of that response will be tailored to the needs of your specific county. But it's a routine question that people get asked, and certainly we hope you have the appropriate response. So looking at first, who are we? As Commissioner Dougherty said, we were created back in 1981. We have an interlocal agreement that at that time, but it's been revised in 2005 to the latest edition. We have a master water supply contract amended in 2015. We're here at the facility itself, acquired from GDU back in 1991. Since the last 30 years, it was expanded from existing 12 million gallons a day to 51 million gallons a day capacity. And our regional system, originally at 7 miles, consists today of 76 miles of large diameter piping so that we can serve the region. And a number of emergency interconnects associated with that, not only with the authority, but between the county utilities and the respective municipalities within your jurisdictions. Where will we be? We did do the integrated water master plan last year, done in 2020. Certainly in 2040, looking down to 20 years, certainly looking at sustainable water supplies to meet future needs and multiple interconnected sources. So not just supplying out from this facility, but interconnected. And certainly one of our goals in the future is to interconnect with Lake Manatee, which would be the 2 big dogs in this region as far as water supply. An additional 72 miles of transmission pipeline is proposed and laid out within the master plan for the next 20 years. What we want to do is break this into 2 different sections today. I'll be doing the authority overview. Our illustrious general counsel will do the most interesting stuff that lawyers do and provide the documents and policies that the authority have. Mr. Coates will be doing the authority infrastructure and also the water supply master plan as we look to the future. And then I'll follow up with what lies ahead. That's when you will roll up your sleeves in the coming months and years, and how do we continue the success that we have today. So looking at the vision, and the mission of the authority, actually over the last 40 years, the main goal hasn't changed. As Commissioner Dougherty said, it was formed 40 years ago with the expectation of having an interconnected regional system. Those 4 county leaders at that time looked north at the Tampa Bay water wards and realized that even though Charlotte County Utilities didn't exist, DeSoto County Utilities did not exist, Sarasota County was really a whole menagerie of private utilities in the old Sud 1, but they were buying all their water from Manatee. Manatee was the only entity that really had a long-term solid water utility at that time. So certainly the goal was to have an interconnected region and ensure a safe drinking water supply for the future. The language has been tweaked and updated over time, but the main emphasis has always remained the same. We certainly exist with a number of documents that we abide by. The interlocal agreement, as I said, was amended in 2005. Any change to that would take unanimous votes, so it's like our Constitution. It stands with the main document of the authority. The water supply contract was amended last amended in 2015. We also have utility revenue bonds that we have to meet those covenants. So when we get to the budget time, you'll see abidance by budget policies. We have a statement of each of the organization of operation as required by state statute for independent districts of the state, which we are. We have the strategic plan for the authority, which the board flushed through last year, and you'll be presented with the final document under the regular agenda today. Certainly the annual budget resolution, which is set on an annual basis. And at the next board meeting, you'll be diving into the FY 2022 budget. And certainly the annual 5-year CIP and 20-year needs and assessment, looking to the future and what infrastructure we'll be moving forward to. Looking at the historical timeline, as stated previously, authority came together in 1981. At that time, Hardy was an original member. Hardy soon withdrew. In 1991 was the big milestone, the acquisition of the Peace River facility. At that time, general development went belly up. And I tell you, there was the start of water wars here locally, that different entities wanted to take ownership of it. And that's when Swiftlet stepped in as the peacemaker, put some money on the table, and made it a regional facility. And the rest is history as to how it progressed after that. Northport becomes a customer of the authority at that same period because Northport was general development. So often you get the question, why are the 4 counties the only members? Because it was created back in the 80s. Northport became a customer by virtue of general development selling this facility to the authority. So Northport became a customer when they took over the general development facilities within the city. There was a lot of planning in the 90s, and the Peace River option was proposed and put by contract in 1995. That's when Sarasota became a connected recipient of the authority water. Prior to that, it was only Charlotte County, Airport, and DeSoto County. See that 2005, that second amended interlocal agreement took place. That was the creation of the documents to build the reservoir to expand the facility. You see that followed by that in 2015, the original facility was in dire need of rehabilitation. We had the ability with the new expansions online to be able to take the old facility offline and totally rehab it, so it's good for another 30 years and more. At the same time, the master water supply contract was updated, and that brings us up to 2020. That we have good facilities today. How do we plan for the future to make sure we maintain that system to the future? Looking at this, how the authority grew, you can see back in 1992, this facility pumped out about 6 to 7 million gallons a day, and that was because it was all going to general development within Charlotte County primarily. So Charlotte County was getting 90% of the water out of this facility. Northport was getting probably about 8% in DeSoto County. Lake Susie down there was getting just a small amount. You can see as time progressed, the Peace River option came into service. That's when we finished the pipeline to an expansion here to serve Sarasota County. So Sarasota County started receiving water. And then you can see when the regional expansion program was placed into service in 2009, and the continued expansion of supply to not only Charlotte, DeSoto, and Northport, but that's when Sarasota took larger amounts too. And a lot of that was premised that Manatee County back in the 1970s provided sales agreements to Sarasota County. There were leaders at the time that realized that there was going to be an expiration date to those, and that Manatee County would need their water back, Sarasota would need an alternative water supply, and this was the answer. Looking at the authority organizational chart itself, we are strictly a wholesale supplier. We do not do distribution, so we just wholesale to the county utilities and city of Northport utilities. We'd like to think we're lean and mean with 52 authorized full-time employee slots. You can see that you, the board of directors, set policy, budgets, and provide direction to the staff. The direct staff is, of course, myself, the executive director. Doug Manson has been our legal counsel for over 20 years now. He's under, by contract to the board, but certainly we work together. You can see that the system operations is really the bulk of the employees. People here at this facility doing the operations, maintenance, water quality testing, and our land management. There's approximately 40 positions out of the 52. And then we have our administrative office in Lakewood Ranch, where a lot of administrative folks are located. So how do we allocate our water? Who are the, how's everybody's partnership? You can see there that we have 51 million gallons a day of capacity treatment to this plant, but by contract, we allocate out an average daily quantity of 34.7. Because there are max months, there are max days, there's out time for maintenance of processes. So, but we do have that contract. As I said before, when we first acquired this facility, Charlotte County was 90% stakeholder. You can see over time how that's progressed. Sarasota and Charlotte are pretty much equal partners as far as stakeholders in the capacity. Northport with their share of 2.9, and DeSoto County Utilities with 0.7 MGD of that capacity. How's that shake out as far as the individuals themselves? Charlotte County, basically everything north of the river, the bulk of the utilities is supplied directly from this facility. You do have Burnt Store serving the south, so there's approximately 95% of your water comes from this facility through the authority. Looking at DeSoto County Utilities gets really the main utility, gets all their water from the authority. Out at the prison, they have a smaller system that they maintain under, still under their ownership. Manatee County, as I said before, I know I went to the 50-year celebration of their reservoir a couple years back. So they've been long-term of an excellent utility and certainly supplying themselves. And not only supplying themselves, but supplying other municipalities within the county. Looking at Sarasota County Utilities, as I said, they didn't start taking water from us till the early 2000s. Now, we are the primary provider of water to Sarasota County Utilities, providing over 15 million gallons a day. The self-supply is some of their internal water supply systems. That number is a little low for last year because the Carlton is offline for rehabilitation, but even with Carlton online, the authority is still the bulk of their supplier. The import is what they still import from Manatee County. Looking at the city of Northport, you can see how they break apart there with the bulk of their water coming from the authority, and certainly they have a Makahatchee Creek water supply plant, so they do have self-supply where they can blend the two together to meet their needs. How do we fit in the region?
you can see there the authority, our members in Northport, we're approximately 75%. 75% of the capacity and usage supplied within our membership. And even at that, Palmetto and Longboat Key are supplied by Manatee, so they're actually part of the supply from Manatee County. Punta Gorda, we are intertied with Punta Gorda. You can see that we have the closeout of the project on US 17 on today's agenda. So we are in working relationship with Punta Gorda. Englewood Water District, there is an interconnect between Englewood and Charlotte County, so they actually play into the picture. Arcadia is intertied with DeSoto County, so they're certainly not independent. They get water also through DeSoto County Utilities. Braden has intertied with Manatee County Utilities, and certainly the others, City of Sarasota and Venice, are intertied with, not directly with the authority, but they are intertied with Sarasota County Utilities. So looking at the region, we not only look at the membership of the 4 counties, but how they're intertied and how we can work together overall for the good of all the residents of the 4 counties. So with that, open for any discussion, questions?
Any questions for Pat? Okay.
Then I'll turn it to Doug with the exciting lead.
Of course, I find the documents to be the most important part of any authority, and I had a 22-page presentation, which Pat has reduced to 4 slides. So it's not true. So the founding documents that were developed on start really in the statutes in 373, which is the concept of what a regional water supply authority is. So as you can see, their purpose is exactly what we do, developing and storing water. And in this case, we cannot engage in any local water distribution. So frequently that's a question people ask, hey, could you run a line to us? No, we cannot. That has to be done by the members and the customers of the authority. And of that, we have the 4 members that you're all sitting around the table. Of course, Northport is also a customer. Created in a local agreement. So we have 2 sets of documents, actually more than that, but primarily 2. One is our governance document. Then that's the one that talks about the 4 members of the authority, what membership is about, what your powers that are enumerated both in the statute and in that document are about. And then this separate interlocal agreement and governance also has a master water supply contract, which we'll talk about later. But that makes us an independent special district, and we're created pursuant to 16301, which means you're an independent government. Even though each one of you sits on a board, you are an independent government when you're sitting here. And then we also have to have, under the 373 statute, approval by the Secretary of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And that makes us a regional water supply authority. We have that approval. We've talked about the 4 members. Each one of you is equal. The way the voting occurs, it's 1 member, 1 vote. We do grant preferential rights to the 4 counties and our customer city of Northport to purchase water from the authority. So the idea is your needs are taken care of first, the 4 counties and Northport, before we can serve other customers. We established 2 classes of customers under our documents. One is a water allocation based on the customer. That's the model that everyone except for DeSoto County is currently under. So it's what we think of as a subscription model. You request a certain amount of water under our documents, and then the authority, once you've locked in and committed to buy that water, then we're committed at the authority to provide you with that water. We have a provision we call host jurisdiction for consent to new water facilities. What that means is if we're going to locate a withdrawal of any kind or pipelines or any kind of infrastructure in your county, we have to receive your approval. So independently, your county has to approve of it. And new members can be added to the authority, but only by unanimous vote of the authority board. So all 4 of you would have to vote unanimously for that to occur. The 2005 water supply contract and governance revisions established a new method going forward and how it would be governed, and also did away with all the prior water contracts, supply contracts that existed at that time. It was a way of kind of streamlining everything that had grown since that time point. And it provides a foundation for all the future water supply projects. It did identify DeSoto County as their selection as an exclusive provider, which means the authority, we don't wait for DeSoto County to request water. We're looking at water demands that they have over time, and then the authority supplies those needs based on the demand. So it's our job as the authority to make sure that DeSoto County never runs out of water. The 2005 agreements kind of established that, and I know that my financial people don't like what I call this. I say a common debt pool, which is that's not a term of art. It just means that all the debt service we have is combining over time, so that it will be shared by all customers equally. So it's like it's going to be one big mortgage, and everybody pays based on their allocation on that mortgage. We have created a planning process in the documents. How do we determine, what your demands are? How do you request it? There's a 20-year demand projection that's provided to us from each one of the members and customer. And then in addition to that, there's a 7-year commitment. So you're putting out in your planning thing, here's the water supply needs we have for 20 years. And in 7 years, they're identifying what portion of that, if any, they want to be supplied by the authority. Once that request is made, then the authority is obligated to meet that request, and then the member or customer is obligated to pay for the money it costs to add those additional supplies on. We also established a pool of water, so that, say that Charlotte County at this time doesn't use the entire allocation that they've got, and that's just a matter of they have to have room to grow. And so the idea is this water is available in the pool, so that if another member government needs water, at least on a temporary basis, like for a year or two, we know Charlotte wouldn't need it, then it could be transferred over and they could purchase it, in effect, through the authority from Charlotte. So it just reduces the amount of time, how fast we have to grow. So if there's a lot of excess supply, you don't have to add a new supply on as quickly. We have pipeline agreements. That is one of the things that the master water supply contract does not include, is new pipeline contracts have to be entered into. We talk about how they're done. The authority completely owns the pipelines. We allocate the hydraulic capacity entitlement to the customers that are participating or paying for portions of the pipelines. All rates are governed by the master water supply contract, and the contract basically breaks the rate into two components: a base rate charge, which is that fee you pay, and it includes hydraulic capacity entitlement in each one of the pipes. And I didn't see this on here, Pat, so I'm going to add it in. One of the things we like to talk about is the 50-year water use permit that was achieved from the Southwest Florida Water Management District. There are currently 2 50-year water use permits issued in the state of Florida. One is for the authority. So this helps us take care of the long-term needs of our customers as we go forward and guarantees that water is supplied. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Mike Coates.
Thanks, Doug. Mr. Chair, board members, I'm going to be talking about our existing infrastructure and our planning efforts, which of course have recently been concluded with a 2020 master plan. So you see this shot here is from the south looking north across our facilities. These are the facilities as they exist today. Now, as Pat indicated, when we acquired these in 1991, it was a 12 MGD facility. It's been expanded 3 times, and what you see today, of course, is a 51 million gallon a day capacity surface water treatment plant and 6.5 billion gallons of off-stream storage. We have our intake on the Peace River shown here. This is on a side stream in the Peace River. Most people don't even see it. The actual main stream of the river is down past these trees here. And we can pump physically up to 120 million gallons a day at this location when flow conditions are right. That water is pumped up to the reservoir system and then is pumped from the reservoir system down to the water treatment plant for treatment and distribution to our customers. During the summertime, when flows are high in the river, storage conditions are good in the reservoir system, we also recharge the aquifer storage and recovery system, and we have 21 wells, 12 over here and 9 over on this side of the road, that store fully treated drinking water in the aquifer down at a depth of between 500 and 800 feet below land surface. That water is pushed into the aquifer during the wet season, and when we need it in the dry season, it's recovered and put into the reservoir system, retreated, and that helps sustain our customers. Right now in this system, we've got about 6.5 billion gallons in the surface water component here, and we've got 9 billion gallons in storage in the aquifer storage and recovery system. So there's a lot of water stored in this system. That's almost a year's worth of supply for us. And we also have, as Pat indicated, 76 miles of regional transmission pipelines that serve our customers from this location. Our water source is, of course, the Peace River. Originates up here in Polk County. It's a relatively large river by Florida standards, not by standards that you might find on the West Coast or anything like that, but it's about 106 miles long. It's the 7th longest river in Florida. Has a watershed of 2,400 square miles. And our intake and facilities are located right here. 75% of the watershed is above our intake, which gives us a large catchment area. It gives us an average annual flow of about 800 million gallons a day past our intake. But that average flow doesn't really give you the complete picture. There's a lot of seasonal variability in the flow. We see during the dry season, flows in the river might be as low as 40 or 50 million gallons a day. During high flows like tropical storms, we might get 20 billion gallons a day coming down the river. And so we see a very large variation in the flow coming down the river. And that's what makes it necessary for us to have off-stream storage and high pumping capacity from the river to harvest water when it's available, to make what amounts to a seasonal resource into a reliable year-round supply. So that off-stream storage and the high rate withdrawals from the river are what make this system work. The authority currently has 76 miles of large diameter drinking water transmission pipelines out there. These deliver water to our customers. Size range is 24 to 48 inches in diameter. The pipelines shown in blue here are the existing pipelines that we have. Those are the 76 miles. We have one project over here that I'll be discussing a little bit later, the Phase 3B pipeline. That is extending the regional system from around the landfill in Sarasota County up to State Road 72, Clark Road. And from there, the red lines are future pipelines proposed. Of course, we intend to interconnect Manatee County, and we've got the southern loop that will interconnect again Carlton, providing that redundant loop to the south. So another 72 miles of proposed future transmission mains that are shown in red on here to be developed in the next 20 years in the region. Operating public water supplies requires, like almost everything else nowadays, a lot of permits. We have public drinking water system permit from the DEP that ensures that public drinking water standards are continuously met from these facilities. We have a water use permit from the Water Management District for our withdrawals from the Peace River here that ensure that what we harvest from the river doesn't adversely affect the estuary downstream in Charlotte Harbor. We have a water use permit from the Water Management District called the Operational Flexibility Permit, and that allows us to get water from a number of other facilities, including Shell Creek, Carlton, the Englewood Water District, and a well that we own in DeSoto County, and bring that into the system if we have an emergency and we can't produce the water that's needed from the Peace River facility. So that's a very useful permit for us. We, of course, have an operations permit for our aquifer storage and recovery system, and you see the Wellfield 2, this 12-well system over here. And that permit is intended to ensure that we're protecting the aquifer with our injections, that we're not degrading the water quality in the aquifer. I guarantee you that the water that we put down in the aquifer is much better quality than exists in the aquifer there, but still we need to have that permit. And then we also have an environmental resource permit for Reservoir 2, and of course this is an above-ground facility. This is essentially a 4-mile dam that goes around Reservoir 2. There are a lot of safety factors and safety features involved in this, and those are all embedded in this environmental resource permit to ensure that the operation here stays safe. So we're all about public trust, health, safety, and being good stewards of the environment here, and these permits support that mission. And so we take permit compliance very seriously. We are in compliance with all of the permits, federal, state, and local laws for these facilities. I'm going to move to our master plan now.
Yes, sir.
Our 4-county region has some significant constraints on development of new groundwater to meet regional needs. And the map that you see here, you see our 4-county region, and this red outline is what's called the Southern Water Use Caution Area, and it goes all the way around us. It covers 8 counties here, and this is an area where groundwater resources are stressed, particularly in the Floridan aquifer, and that's the aquifer that pretty much everybody uses for agricultural use and drinking water use. That aquifer has been overpumped in the past, and what we're seeing is saltwater intrusion along the coast. We see in the Ridge area, Polk County, Highlands, Hardy County. We see lower lake levels. We see reduced base flow in the Peace River, all associated with groundwater pumping. And so it's very difficult to get a new permit to produce groundwater in this area, to use groundwater. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And the area, this thing not just keeps cutting out. There we go. And the area that is most impacted, called the most impacted area, is right here. It covers Manatee County and Sarasota County. And so that is kind of the bellwether out here. If you have a permitted groundwater use, you have a groundwater use proposed that's going to impact that area, you've got to find some way to mitigate that. So that's why the Water Management District is pushing alternative water supply development in this area. And we are considered an alternative water supply at the Peace River facility because we use that seasonal resource, the seasonally available resource from the Peace River. We harvest it without having an impact on the lower river, and we use that year-round. So we coordinate with SwiftMud and our customers on our planning efforts, and this is our 2020 master plan. It includes a list of projects And those projects are then taken and they're put in the Southwest Florida Water Management District's water supply plan for this region. And that helps us because it gets our projects on the Water Management District's list, gives us a leg up on co-funding because our projects are in their plan. And so we coordinate with them and we coordinate with our customers, of course, on the development of this plan. So what are some of the findings in the plan? Current regional inventory of supplies for the authority and our customers totals about 103.5 million gallons a day in average day capacity to meet water demands in customer service areas. Surface water makes up the majority of this supply total. The Peace River facility here and Manatee Counties, like Manatee County facility, are equal players in that, about 35 million gallons a day each. So those make up the biggest component here. The Manatee facility also treats about 18 MGD in fresh groundwater. And in this region, as you move further south, the groundwater becomes more saline. And so Manatee has fresh groundwater available. When you get down into Sarasota County, Charlotte County, this part of DeSoto County, you don't. The water is brackish, and so you've got to do additional treatment on it, usually reverse osmosis or EDR, for example, like they do at Carlton. But the brackish groundwater facilities, about 15 million gallons a day in total in this south area. 5 to 6 million gallons a day at Carlton, and then the rest of these facilities are much smaller, tend to be 1 to 2 million gallons a day in production capacity each. So not a big component out here. The master plan shows that when current supply capacity is compared with projected demand, and that projected demand is this blue line or this purple line here, and the supply capacity is this yellow line. So when current supply capacity is compared with projected demand, and adequate excess or rotational capacity is added to ensure that the system can weather long-term duration emergencies like facilities being offline for a year or unexpected jumps in demand where you've got perhaps a large user that comes in, industrial user says, I need 5 MGD and I'll site my plant here. So this blue area is the excess capacity needed. Essentially it says that what we need is we need new capacity online in 2030, and that by 2040, about 16 million gallons a day of new supply capacity will be needed. And if you extend this out 50 years to 2070, about 86 million gallons a day in new supply capacity is projected to be needed. Fortunately, we do have a lot of supply capacity that's been identified in the master plan. We got 13 potential future supply sources with a yield of about 137 million gallons a day if all of those were permitted and constructed. Future supplies include Peace River facility expansion, which of course we'll be talking about a little bit later. That's the new reservoir and increased treatment capacity. Expansion of Carlton groundwater facility in a regional partnership. Development of brackish groundwater supply at Buffalo Creek up in Manatee County. And at some point, seawater desalination will need to be looked at. But we do have available options here. Some areas of the state, not so much. You look in the central part of the state, and they're really scrambling to find the resources they need to meet their future demands. The master plan also evaluated expansion of the regional transmission system to support regional growth and system reliability And that evaluation was done under both typical delivery conditions today and emergency conditions today, and typical delivery conditions and emergency conditions 20 years from now. Those emergency conditions might include the loss of a production facility, like the Peace River facility, or like Carlton, or a major transmission pipeline. The existing pipelines are shown in purple on here, and the future lines are shown in green on here, proposed lines. The results of that analysis place the highest priority on future regional connection to Manatee County. That is, these connections here. And this southern loop that comes from the end of our existing transmission main there in Charlotte County and goes around and connects up with the Carlton water treatment plant. Those two projects are now in the routing and feasibility stage and are scheduled, that part of the project is scheduled to be completed in calendar year 2022. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next set of presentations that we've got. So these future projects would add another 72 miles of large diameter transmission mains to the existing 76 miles that we've got. Again, the highest priority projects are that connection with Manatee County to the north and the southern connection to Carlton. Those interconnections represent about 60% of the proposed future pipeline length, but they represent about 75% of the future pipeline costs because they're the biggest lines we're going to put in, most expensive, so that is what that's what the regional master plan came up with for the pipeline routing. What we'll do now is I'll turn it back over to Pat, unless you have some questions on any of this. I'll turn it back over to Pat, and he's going to do the wrap-up on it.
Mike, I've got a couple of questions, but
Sure.
everybody else first. Anyone else with any questions? We've talked about this publicly, we've talked about it privately. As you program in this next 70 some odd miles of pipe, you're also, I'm sure, up against, as this region explodes in growth, that the corridors have to be preserved. Is there anything you need from us to go back to our home jurisdictions about preserving the corridors, or have they been well informed of what we need in that regard?
I think that your staff has been talking with developers as they come in for various approvals about where we may be putting pipelines and trying to reserve corridors for those and reserve territory for pump stations and storage and that kind of thing. That's very helpful. We don't know exactly where these lines are going to be placed at this point. That's part of what the feasibility studies are going to help us identify. What's shown on here is just a concept. These things might be a couple miles one side or the other. And so I think once we finish the feasibility studies, we'll have a lot better idea of where we're likely to go, and hopefully we can get a jump on land acquisition at that point.
And I know you're doing that, and I've been involved in some of it back in my home county, but just speaking for Sarasota County, I sort of just gag a little bit when I see that southern loop going back up to the Carlton plant, because that's dead center, ground zero for some pretty explosive growth. So whatever we individually can do to help you, just I think you can rely on us to at least carry the message.
Thanks.
And then it's for our boards to really make the decisions.
Right. Yeah, the job's not getting any easier.
No. The other thing is, can you just real quickly, a couple of sentences, just for our record here, the instances in the past couple of years where I believe, and we have heard it when we go to conferences, the Peace River is the envy of a lot of parts of the state because of the regional nature of it. When that's had to be used, it's going to be used again soon. It's being used now in Sarasota County, and it was used for Hurricane Charlie in Charlotte County. So could you just briefly touch on how the looping all this pipe, because people just shake their heads, do we really need all this pipe? Just, could you just give us a brief?
Right. If you recall back in 2004 when Hurricane Charlie came up the Peace River, our facility located here, we lost power at the facility, at the Peace River facility. And of course, we supplied most of the water to Charlotte County, some water to Northport. And at that time, our staff called up the folks at Carleton and said, hey, can you push water back south to help support Charlotte County? And they did that. And then the reason that was possible was because of this pipeline to connect up and the regional cooperation with Sarasota County. So that kept Charlotte County in water during that time frame. More recently, of course, the Carleton Water Treatment Plant has been offline for about a year. They're rehabbing their electrodialysis reversal units, putting in new ones. We coordinated with your staff, they coordinated with our staff. We knew about this a long time in advance, and so we knew it was coming offline. And we've been providing extra water to Sarasota County during that whole year. And that facility is supposed to be back online sometime this spring. So that's just another instance. And of course, City Northport is going offline for somewhere around 3 or 4 weeks here pretty soon. They can take their whole facility down and just use us. So those are the benefits of having that redundant capacity and the pipelines that allow you to get water to where it's needed.
And I know we're just, you and I may be looking at each other saying we're stating the obvious, but for the million-plus people, my goodness, it's over 1 million people in the 4 counties now. They just don't hear that, don't know that, and they would be having, but for the great work that's done here by you all, rolling water blackouts, for heaven's sakes. We hear that in other parts of the country, rolling power blackouts. But this is what is so important. And there was a point in time where people were saying that the Carleton plant, should we really go through this massive expense on the reverse osmosis, all that? And you all were very strong in saying, yes, Sarasota County, you need to do it because it's a dual, it's a repetitive water source. We can't lose that. So that's something we all should keep in mind. Thank you so much, Mike.
Okay.
What are we on, item number 2 now, project update?
Well, just go ahead and put that last slide on. And as we know, just like Mr. Mayo said, that we know growth is coming. It's here. You look at the population projections, and everybody's got their own population projections, be it us, our member counties, be it SWIFMA, be it NPOs. It's coming. It's coming. And we need to be prepared for it. And 30 years ago, we were behind the 8 ball. We got out from behind the 8 ball, and nobody wants to be behind the 8 ball again. So Mike, you could throw the next slide up. Basically, kind of wrapping up, we're trying to give you a background as to who we are, how we got here, and now the question is, how do we get to where we need to be into the future? So, as we said before, the National Water Supply Contract was last done in 2005. I think a lot of expectations then is that pipelines emanating from the Peace River supplied water out in a radius. And as we've learned over time with all the Interconnect, it's becoming now a more loop system. Water goes 2 ways. The pipelines are not a one-way street. Also, it was based on building new pipelines to get to the new delivery points. How are we going to do interconnects with existing pipelines? How do we charge that out? There's still unanswered questions within the National Water Supply Contract that are now rising to the top. Well, certainly since the last 15 years. You can see the number of pipelines that have been put in service. We've learned that integrating the water supply system works. The regional water supply quality master plan is in place along with the master plan. We certainly coordinated with SWIFMA to lay out long-term future needs and funding. I know they have their hands full district-wide, not only just the southern section, but Southern Polk County is trying to do their master planning for cooperative use within the county, and our strategic plan updated goals and initiatives. So you have your work cut out for you as a board to look at the master water supply contract. We're kind of moving into a planning phase right now. A lot of the construction is coming to a finalization, but certainly we're prepping up for the next expansion and building phase. So do the contracts work? There's a lot of good things, but do they work for the future? Are there some gaps that need to be done? Are there some things that can be done away with that 15 years ago sounded like a good idea, but today doesn't prove out? And we'll have to end 15 years from now. Can we get there? So we see it the challenge for the board to have the discussion, to look at the policy, get us to where we need to go. So with that, Mr. Chairman.
Is that, and we're moving on to item number 2 then? But before we do it, I don't want to belabor this, but it's critical for the people that will watch this and for us when we go back. Just jump back one slide, Mike, please. This is where all that planning, I continue to tell people, and you need to correct me here and now, that we have a fine supply for the next 20 years. And with the third reservoir, because I get hit, why are you building a third reservoir? That'll give us a 50-year supply. And in addition, that's why we sequentially got the 50-year permit and now are moving towards a reservoir. But there, right there, that captures it all, including the note under Lakewood Ranch. The number 2 and number 4 communities in the United States are right here inside Peace River Authority. So I'm going to take copies of this when people ask me why in the world are you building a third reservoir. This just captures it. And all those red dots are what scare me. In your right-of-way acquisition for pipelines or your corridors, that's where they're going to go right through. So thank you.
And I would just point out,
Sure.
if I can, Mr. Chairman, Charlotte County's population in 2007 by 2040, that projection to me is way off, way low. We're going to hit 200,000 probably. My guess with our growth rate the way it is right now within the next 7 to 10 years.
That's a great point, because Sarasota right now, we use 435,000 right now. I don't know what the next census is going to say, so don't slow down, Mike.
No. I had a conversation about acquisition of Dougherty.
Yeah. Mike, you're going to take care of the next one also?
Yep. I sure am. Let's see here. Okay, Mr. Chairman, board members, this is an update on projects. We've got 3 projects that are actually on the board agenda in consent that are being finished up. I'll talk about those. I'll talk about one project, a pipeline project that we have going in Sarasota County. And then we've got 3 feasibility studies that are ongoing, and I'll just give you a brief update on those. So the 3 projects that we'll be talking about that are completed, maintenance office and warehouse and filter covers project at the Peace River facility, Phase 1 regional interconnect that connects our regional system down to the Punta Gorda Shell Creek water treatment plant. So we'll talk about those. In construction, we'll talk about the Phase 3B project over here in Sarasota County. And then the feasibility study projects that are in process right now with Reservoir 3 feasibility study, the Southern Loop feasibility study, and the Phase 3C Regional Interconnect that would go up to Manatee County. So we'll start with the maintenance office and warehouse. This is a project that constructed a 4,200 square foot maintenance office, and that maintenance office was replacing a 1,400 square foot double wide that we have been using for about the past 20 years. This building was actually put up for construction office some time back, and that's what it was used for. It was transitioned to the maintenance office because that's the only place we had them to go, and now we have a brand new 4,200 square foot maintenance office, which is much better. Maintenance warehouse. This provides critical storage for parts and supply on site. We never had a central warehouse for this. Parts were scattered all over the place, put wherever we could find a spot for them in the past, and so it's important to have that inventory of parts to fix things when you need them, and this building gives us the ability to do that. And of course, the funding for this is from the authority's capital improvement program. So the notice to proceed on this project with the construction was issued in January 2019. The contractual substantial completion was scheduled for January 2020, so a one-year project. We extended that by about a month because of weather-related problems, but substantial completion wasn't actually reached until the middle of July of 2020, and that's when we moved into the building. And you see the building shown here. This is the maintenance office, warehouse, some of the inside, the maintenance office there, and the inside of the warehouse, of course, before we actually moved anybody in there. The closeout of this project, you see the original construction cost, the original construction contract was $2.5 million. Engineering was about $450,000. That included preliminary design, and construction management for about a total of $3 million. The final costs on this, and you'll see this one in the consent agenda, $2.3 million for the construction. That's about $180,000 lower than the contract price. About $120,000 of that was unused owner's allowance, and another $60,000 of that was a credit back to the project because the contractor finished the project substantially late. They were about 100 days late. And that credit back paid for the increase in the engineering cost, which was required to because more time was required for the engineer to continue to do the inspections out here. So what we got out of this, of course, an excellent product, much needed facilities. It came in a little bit late, but in total about $100,000 under budget. Next project is our filter covers project. These are covers to go over and protect our multimedia filters in the water plant. This is a shot of the before condition out here. You see these filters are open. These are the filter covers, and you may get a chance to go out and take a look at them. These are like super heavy duty pool enclosures with aluminum roofs. They're extremely robust. Excuse me, there's 230,000 pounds of aluminum that was installed as part of this project. Just for scale, that's 7.4 million empty aluminum beer cans. So that's quite a few. Yeah. You see a close-up of the filters before here, and then this is an artist rendering of the final configuration out here. These are developed to withstand a Category 5 hurricane out here. And the screen panels obviously are not going to stand up in a Category 5 hurricane. They're going to blow out, but the rest of the structure is going to be the same, and we'll just replace the screens. They provide a lot of benefits for this plant. Staff safety, for example, during storms. We've got staff that have to come out here rain or shine and do work on these filters, backwashing them a couple times a day. And so lightning is an issue. Now with the covers on them, lightning's not an issue. Those covers keep airborne debris out of the filters. And that helps us with our chemical costs, and it helps us with plant efficiency because we don't have to turn the plant up and down as often as we used to. We can run at a much more steady rate. So a lot of benefits associated with these. So for this project, we issued a notice to proceed in October 2019. Substantial completion was reached in December. That's about 5 months early on this project. Contractor really did a fantastic job. You see the finished filter covers here. The arrows there, and on this other shot, of course, here's one, another one, and then you can't really see the third here. But excellent product. The original construction and engineering costs for the contract total about $4.3 million. The construction contract came in about $100,000 below the estimate, and the engineering contract is expected to come in about $40,000 below the estimate, but we don't have the final invoice for that yet, so that's still an estimate. But all in all, you know, we're $130,000 under budget with a terrific product, and it came in 5 months early. Phase 1 regional interconnect, shown up here, and it connects up our regional transmission system, the DeSoto regional transmission main, here near the county line on US 17, and it goes all the way down into Charlotte, down North River Road or North Washington Loop Road, and then crosses and goes under Shell Creek. There's a subaqueous crossing about 3,400 feet long that goes under Shell Creek just downstream of the Hendrickson Dam. That Hendrickson Dam is what impounds water for the city of Punta Gorda for their water supply. Now this is an important backup supply for DeSoto County should they lose the feed from the Peace River facility. It's an important backup supply for the city of Punta Gorda because we can supply them water down to their plant if that plant has to come offline. And it's important for the region because we can now get water directly from Punta Gorda's water treatment plant and any future supplies that are developed down here south of the river. And there will be future supplies developed south of the river at some point. So those are important components here. This project was entirely funded by money from outside of the Water Supply Authority. Swiftwood committed up to $6 million. We got $4 million from the state for it and $2 million from Punta Gorda for a total of a $12 million funded project. So let's see how that worked out. We issued a notice to proceed on the project in January of 2019. You can see this is a shot going along US 17 of when they were installing the pipe along the right-of-way there on US 17. This is a close-up shot of the pipe installation in the right-of-way there on US 17. They had a very, very difficult time with water management here. They're installing the pipe in a ditch, but they knew it was going to be in a ditch. And it rained a lot, and they had a very, very difficult time, and that extended the project time by quite a bit. In this shot, what you see is this is the crossing under Shell Creek, 3,400 feet crossing under Shell Creek. This is the pullback that they're doing, and just the start of the pullback. They have already gone through underneath Shell Creek, between 20 and 50 feet below the bottom of the creek, and they drill this horizontal hole. They condition that hole. This is the drill string that comes up. They hook on the 30-inch high-density polyethylene line, and then they pull that back and thread it back through the hole to the other side of the creek. This part of the job went almost flawlessly, and it was the hardest part of the job. As we look at the cost on this project, the construction contract was $8.2 million. Originally, the engineering contracts were $2.4 million. We spent about $240,000 on land acquisition and legal. And so in total, we looked at about $10.9 million, which was still well under the $12 million budget that we had funding for. In the end, the construction contract was about $850,000 below the construction, the original construction price, primarily because of unused owner's allowance, and also there's $250,000 in credits that were credited back to the job because the contractor was very late, and those paid for the increase in engineering costs shown here. So in total, we're about $700,000, $650,000 below original cost for this project for the contracts, and we're almost $1.7 million below the funding that was available for this project. So we've got a good project. It's in service, a little bit late, but we saved a bunch of money in the end on it. Got one project in construction. This is the Phase 3B Interconnect. Goes from the north end of our existing transmission main up to State Route 72. It's 5 miles of 48-inch and 36-inch diameter pipe. And you can see that laid out here. The budget for this thing was about $16.7 million funded by SwiftMud, some funding from the state and some from the authority. You can see the pipe installation going in here, and then clearing of the line is shown here. Just for your information, clearing of this line required pumping at about 20 million gallons a day to get get the rate that was needed to clear that large diameter line. The original construction contracts and the engineering contracts about $14.6 million on this, and we haven't finished yet. They're expected to finish this month, but they're at about $11 million right now. This project should come in under budget. And it is also going to be about 3 months early. So that's what we're looking at for 3B. Feasibility studies, just very briefly. Reservoir 3 feasibility study looking at a 6 to 9 billion gallon reservoir location out here, and potentially a new intake on the Peace River somewhere in this area or located right here. The intent is to help refine the project costs, identify wetland and floodplain mitigation options in here. This project was initiated in August of 2020 and is expected to be completed in December of this year. It's co-funded by the Water Management District, and HDR is the project consultant on it. You see where we're looking here. This is the siting and feasibility study component, going to be done about the end of calendar 2022. Then we've got potentially design and permitting for about 3 years, construction for about 3 years. That would get this facility completed in 2028 and available to start filling, which may take up to 2 years to fill this. That would get us water by 2030. So that's where the feasibility study is right now. Phase 2B and 2C, the regional interconnect. This is the southern loop here. It would go up to Carlton. Both of these pipeline feasibility studies are really looking at the same thing. They're looking at pipeline routing. Where do you route the pipeline? They're considering where connections might be made with the local system. Pump stations and storage components. Where would you put those? How big do they need to be? What's the diameter of the pipe? They'll look at project timing and updated costs. This was just started in January and is scheduled to be completed in the spring of 2022. And you can see the timeline for this. This project is looked at to be online sometime in 2028. Of course, what we find here in this feasibility study may inform that and adjust that schedule. This again is being supported by the Southwest Florida Water Management District. They're paying half the cost on that project. Then on phase 3C, same situation with phase 3C. This project would go up and connect with Manatee County and connect both of the largest supply facilities in the region together, essentially, the Peace River facility and Manatee facilities. Same options on this, looking at routing and connections, pump station and storage components, and pretty much the same time frame. Online by about 2028 is what we're looking at. This one, again, SwiftMud is co-funding half of it, and so we would get $300,000 of the $600,000 total for that project. So that's kind of a whirlwind tour of the projects that we're involved with right now and that are wrapping up right now. If you got any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Any questions for Mike? Mike, great. It appears that things are moving along because of our staff and you all and who we hire, mostly almost always on time, mostly almost always under budget. And is this where you give us bad news, or there is no bad news?
There's no bad news. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move onto the consent agenda. It's items 1 through 8. Number 5 has been removed already from the agenda for today. I've got no notice of anything pulled by any commissioner. That said, motion for consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Commissioner Langford, seconded by Commissioner Truex. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Those 7 items move forward 4-0 with approval. We're now on the regular agenda. Item number 1, water supply conditions. It's a staff presentation. As is number 2, FP&L Solar Together Program update. Also a staff presentation. And Richard Anderson is going to help us with both.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. For the record, Richard Anderson of the authority staff. As Commissioner Mayo said, this is a recurring presentation that we do each board meeting. At this point, I'm sure if I was absent, Commissioners Langford and Mayo could both come up here and do it for me and do probably a much better job than I do. So you'll be familiar with this. What we try to cover in this presentation is the water quality and water supply conditions that are happening right now. We cover rainfall, river flow, and withdrawals and storage within the regional system. So as I go through it, if you have any questions, feel free to stop and ask me. First of all, we cover rainfall. As you can see in this graphic, the blue dotted line is the recurring historical rainfall, the diurnal rainfall for the past 2 years. The green line is the actual rainfall for each month. As you can see highlighted here on the right side for November, December, January, we had pretty average rainfall for November and December, and that tapered right off in January. We had 1/10 of an inch when I put this together on the 18th, about 3/10 now, so we really got no measurable rainfall at all in January. So hopefully that'll pick up for us a little bit in February here. River flows, fortunately we had really good river flow before the rainfalls stopped. As you can see here, and again, this also, for the record, the blue line is the recurring historical average, and the green line is the actual river flow for the month. So as you can see, for November, we had about 1,600 CFS. That dropped down to about 800 in December, and as of the 15th of January, we were about 600 CFS. As we stand here today, we're down a little bit lower here. We're about 310 CFS today, but we are still above what we are allowed to harvest. The value of 130 CFS is the cutoff point for our allowable withdrawal. So we're still harvesting about 30 MGD as of today from the river. And as I said, here's the river withdrawals. Again, for November was about 40, about 38, 37 for December, and it started tapering off in January, averaging about 20 MGD for the month. Good news is on the storage front, we are still very full on the storage system, the surface water system. We have, as of the 15th, we have 6.5 billion gallons between the surface water system. Currently, we have a little bit more than that, 6.55, but basically 6.5 billion gallons in the surface water system as of today. As for the ASR system, as you can see here, we have about just a hair over 9 billion gallons in the ASR system, and that is a record. We've never had more than 9 billion in the system ever. We almost got there a year ago, but didn't quite make it. But as of the end of December, when we went into the storage mode, we have 9.1 billion gallons. So, and as Mike alluded to, I think previously, not all of that water is available from a quality standpoint to use. So we figure about 60% of that water is harvestable at the water quality requirements that we need to meet. So from a quality standpoint, we have about 5.4 billion gallons that we can use in the ASR system. And this graph just kind of gives an idea of the days of supply that we have on hand. This combines the surface water storage of 6.5 billion and the 5.4 billion of usable ASR. So if we were to have to deliver our contractual obligation to you of 35 MGD, we have 342 days, which is about 11 months of storage supply. At our current rate of delivery, which is about 27.5 MGD, we have 432 days, which is a little over 14 months of storage to meet demands. And now I'm going to cover the regional demands for the region and for each customer. This is for the most recent month that we have data from ourselves and from the customers for December 2020. As you can see here, the authority system, we have 34.7 of allocations to the customers. In December, we delivered just over 29 MGD. Your county and city facilities have about 70 million gallons of capacity, and you produced just over 45 MGD for the month of December. You know, all told, 104.7. total deliveries were just over 74 million gallons a day average. Now, of that, 3.5 million gallons of that was delivered to non-authority customers by Manatee County, that being Palmetto, Bradenton, and Longboat Key. Thank you. Refresh my memory there. So when you take that out, the authority and customer use was almost 71 MGD. I'll go through each customer, county by county and city by city. First, Charlotte County. Your allocation in the facility is 16.1. For December, you used just under 11 million gallons, which is 68% of your allocation. You also used just under 500,000 gallons a day from your burnt storage facility, which is permitted at 3.17. It's about 15% utilized. Total for the month was 11.4, or 59% of your available capacity for the month. Now, the graph on the bottom shows the historical. This is the annual usage going back 10 years. As you can see, at the end of 2020, which ended October 1st, your annual usage was 11.54. As of today, this is the 12-month rolling average, which includes through December, is 11.56, very close. And DeSoto County, again, capacity of 0.67. You used 0.72, or 106% of your allocation for the month. Used 0.37 from your correctional facility, and that's 49% utilization. Total was just over 1 MGD, or 76%. Again, for the fiscal year 2020, you used 0.86, up a little bit the last few months to 0.92 for the 12-month rolling average. And Manatee County, permitted capacity of 52 MGD. Total self-supply was 34.52, or 66%. You also supplied 4.3 to Sarasota County, and again the 3.5 to your consecutive customers out on the coast, for a total production of 42.3, or 81% of your permitted capacity. And again, for the long-term usage, 36.6 for water year 2020. Dropped back down a little bit, about 500,000. You're at 36.1 for the 12-month rolling average. And Sarasota County, 15.06 is your allocation to the Peace River facility. You used 15.78 for the month, or about 105% of your allocation. Imported 4.35, mostly from Manatee County and a little bit from the city of Northport. And again, self-produced about 500,000 gallons for a total of 20.6 for the month of December, which is about 60% of your allocation and capacity. City of Northport, their allocation is 2.86 from the authority. They used 1.7, or 60% of their available. Self-produced about 1.5 MGD, and again, sent about 50,000 gallons a day to Sarasota County. Total used within the city was 3.2, or 52% of their available capacity. And again, the water year 2020, 3.13, 12-month running average, very close at 3.15. And this number rolls up the previous 4 or 5 slides for the last 10 years. It shows the regional annual average demand. As you can see, ending in October 1, we were at 76.4, down about 0.5 MGD to 75.96 right now for the 12-month running average. And this shows our available capacity. As you can see, we use 74.4 MGD for the month. That leaves 30.3 MGD available, and most of that is in the authority and Manatee County's reserves and supplies. But we utilized about 71% for the month, and given that demands were pretty high, that's still a very good number. We're still below the 75%. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or.
I don't see any, Richard, so maybe move on to number 2.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair. Item number 2 is also information item only. This is an update on the Solar Together program that we entered into last year. FP&L, they've made investments and they continue to invest in solar facilities around their service territory. They call these their large-scale solar projects. Currently, they have 14 counties. I'm sorry, they have facilities in 14 counties around the state, including Manatee, DeSoto, and Charlotte counties. Sorry, we don't have one in Sarasota County yet, but they'll be working on that. They produce approximately 2,000 kilowatts, or I'm sorry, 2,000 megawatts of power, or enough to supply 400,000 homes. And you can see this program, it was designed to allow FP&L customers, large-scale customers like us, the opportunity to share in the benefits and the cost of these large-scale projects. And that's done through receiving a monthly bill credit on our regular power bill. I'm going to give you a brief history of the program. As you can see, in December of 2018, the registration opened for large-scale commercial customers like us. We made a similar presentation to this to the board in February of 19, outlining the steps that it would take to participate in the program. FP&L entered into the Public Service Commission filing period, which took most of 2019 and actually took a little bit longer than they expected. They finally received approval in March of 2020 and alerted all of the customers that the program would be starting. And actually, we entered into the program in April of 2020 with the first billing cycle. Because of COVID, we did not have the April board meeting last year to get approval. So Mr. Lehman, because there was time-sensitive material to enter into the program, he initiated the contract and the board ratified that at the next board meeting, which was May of 2020. A little bit about how the program works real quickly. The customer selects how much or how little they want to participate in the program, and they develop what they call a subscription fee, which is established by contract. That fee is fixed for the entire life of the program, the 30-year life of the program, and will not increase. On the other side, the benefit side, the entity receives a solar credit, and that credit begins immediately. It began the first month, April 2020, and that is also established by contract, and that credit increases over the life of the program at about 1% annually for the duration of the contract. These graphics I've presented before. I just don't want to spend a lot of time on them, but I want to show you a couple milestone years that were projected. As you can see, the beginning of the program, there's a net investment required by each customer. When you get to year 4, the subscription fee, which is the gray bars and the green bars, actually meet, and the cost and benefits are projected to be equal. Then when you get to year 7, you receive simple payback on the program. So what I want to focus on today really is just year 1, because that's where we are. We've been in the program about 9 months, and the projection was that we would invest about $26,000 in the first year. So what I have here is a breakdown. That $26,000 comes out to just about $2,200 a month in this right-hand column. And you can see our actual charges each month, starting back in April through December. The first 7 months, we did really well. We were ahead of the program a little bit. As you can see, the blue bars, that's the $2,200 a month projection. As you can see, April, we basically netted zero, small charge in May, about even again here in June. We actually made money in July. Actually, as you can see, we netted a $2,700 profit, if you will, on that. But as we start getting into the wintertime months, the credits decreased. So as you can see, in December and November, they were quite high. So it's still a little too early to tell how this program is going to work. You'd expect them to be higher. There's less daylight in the winter, more cloud cover, so that the charges are going to be higher a little bit in the winter, but we want to see what happens here as we go through the first year or two of the program to make sure that there's value in it for us to continue to participate in the program. So, real quick, again, the benefits, no upfront capital cost to the authority. We didn't have to put any money in. We just signed up for the program. There's no long-term contract. We can opt out at any time. There's no penalty to opt out. And there's no restrictions. We can invest in other solar programs either with FP&L or on our own. There's no limit to what we can do or no restrictions because we're in this program. And again, the simple payback that I showed between 4 and 7 years, and the fixed subscription rate is offset by the escalating bill credit. So again, another big one for us, there's no maintenance, operational, or insurance requirements. We're not in the solar business, we're in the water business, so it's nice not to have to maintain equipment that we don't deal with every day. So with that, again, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Richard, for both reports. We're going to move on to item number 3 on the regular agenda, fiscal year 2020 comprehensive annual financial report and independent auditor's report. And Lee is going to help us with that. At the conclusion of her report, we will need a motion that you'll see in your package. Ann?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Ann Lee of the authority staff. Myself, along with Tiffany from Purvis Gray, will be reporting on the FY20 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Independent Auditor's Report. So grab your coffee now. At the authority, we're continually striving to elevate our standards. As such, since 2018, we have chosen to present our financials as part of a comprehensive annual financial report, commonly known as a CAFR. Now, both years we have submitted our reports to the Government Finance Officer Association's certificate program, and as Mr. Lehman was presented earlier, for the second year in a row, our report was given the Certificate of Achievement. Over the following few slides, I will review the financial highlights and statements presented within the CAFR. Please keep in mind that these statements are being presented in draft form, pending changes related to the GASB 68 adjustment, which is a net pension liability adjustment. They never release the reports on time. We get them mid to the end of January, so it does take some time to do that computation, which is why these are being presented in draft form to you today. These statements are also going to be in summary form, and the figures in red are those which we believe will be affected by this net pension liability adjustment. Now, if you're looking into the CAFR itself, these summary statements will be found within the management's discussion and analysis portion, which begins on page 23. The statement of net position is prepared using the accrual method of accounting and shows all the same information as a balance sheet. It assesses the government's assets against its liabilities. For fiscal year 20, the authority's assets and deferred outflows of resources exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources by almost $136 million. That's our net position. 78% of this net position is represented by the net investment in capital assets, which is your investment in capital assets net of any related debt. The statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund net position is also prepared using the accrual method of accounting and reflects all the same information as an income or profit and loss statement. In terms of revenues, charges for service increased by 2.12%, and operating grants and contributions increased by 1.63% from 2019 to 20. Capital grants and contributions net, which include capital grants from SwiftMud, as well as capital contributions from our customers towards the Phase 1 and Phase 3 pipeline projects, increased by over $13 million. In terms of expenses, cost of sales and service decreased by roughly 1%. Decreases in expenses such as travel and legal services more than offset any cost increases that we saw in repairs and maintenance and water treatment chemicals. As of September 30, 2020, the authority's capital assets totaled just under $256 million. These assets include land, easements, structures, leasehold improvements, furniture, equipment, and construction in progress. For 2020, there were capital additions of $23.16 million, depreciation expense of $12.69 million, for a net increase in capital assets of roughly $10.475 million. The authority's bonded debt outstanding totaled $141,765,000 for 2020. Long-term debt increased by $530,000 due to scheduled principal payments of $2.97 million, which were more than offset by the addition of the 2019 line of credit, which had draws of $3.5 million on it for FY20. Under the authority's budgetary process, rates are established to provide adequate funding for future and planned additional debt. This is demonstrated by the authority's debt coverage ratios, which are shown in this table. As you can see, the authority always has coverage ratios over the 1.15 required within our bond covenants, partially because the board had the foresight to establish a policy that we do not go under 1.5. And even then, as you can see, our ratios are always very healthy. It's a very good indicator of the authority's financial strength. This time, I'll pass it over to Tiffany with Purvis Gray, who is going to discuss the independent auditor's report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Once again, I'm Tiffany Mangold with Purvis Gray. We are your external auditors for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020. First, I'd like to congratulate you on receiving that GFOA Certificate of Achievement Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting. That's the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. So its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. I know you're striving to get that same award for 2020, so this would be the third year, and I think everything's looking great for that. So I'll go over my audit results right now. It's our responsibility as your external auditors to express an opinion on the audit based on the financial statements. And we've issued an unqualified opinion, which is a clean audit. That's the highest level of assurance that you can receive from an audit, and that means that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. As we're asking that you accept these drafts pending changes to FRS, we've added a paragraph to the independent auditor's report, which is also in red, and that just restricts the use of these reports and these statements until we can finalize with the changes to FRS. There's a few areas of your CAFR that we do not issue an opinion on, and that's your introductory section, the management's discussion and analysis, and the statistical section. We perform the audit, the interim period is between June and July, and then we come back and do finals in November. So it's a pretty quick turnaround for your staff to end the year in September and turn it around by mid-November. But they're always accommodating and help us with our audit results with no questions. We noted no instances of fraud or illegal acts throughout the year, and we didn't have any changes to our planned scope or approach throughout the fieldwork. Some favorable audit conclusions is just that there were no changes in accounting policies throughout the year, no significant or unusual transactions noted, no alternative methods discussed with management, and we consider management's communication with you, those charged with governance, to be in line with the best practices. Along with the financial statements, there should be a 3-page letter titled Communication with Those Charged with Governance. This is a technical letter that was designed for audit committees, and it quickly just states a few things that we're required to communicate to you annually. There were no adjustments detected as a result of the audit process. This means that if you receive any interim financials or throughout the year, you can rely on those, and that they're fairly stated. There were no past adjustments, which would mean that it was a material adjustment that management decided to pass on. There was, however, OPEB, which is just considered trivial to your financial statements at this time, and it's not required to be included as a past adjustment. However, we're continuously monitoring and understand that it may rise to the level of needing to be recorded in the future. The financial statement disclosures are considered neutral, consistent, and clear. We had no disagreements with management throughout the audit and no difficulties with management throughout the audit. We want to thank Mr. Lehman and Ms. Lee for all their help throughout the audit, their team. They're very accommodating for us, and they let us come in and turn it around pretty quickly. And Ms. Lee, she prepares the financial statements, and we come in and we audit them. So once again, clean audit opinion, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you have. And there's also a motion.
There's the motion for your consideration.
Any questions? And I double dare any of you to disagree with these two ladies.
We have spreadsheets.
No, that's good. So we'll entertain this motion. Let's read it into the record first. Motion to receive and file, I get the same one. Motion to receive and file Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Fiscal Year 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Independent Auditor's Report is submitted and approved its submittal to the GFOA, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Program, pending the changes related to GASB 68.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Langford, seconded by Commissioner Truex. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye, and that motion moves forward. We're on item number 3 of the regular agenda, 4-0 with approval. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I followed every bit of it.
I know you did. Good listening. Thank you.
We are on item number 4 of the regular agenda, Strategic Plan 2021, and Terry Holcomb is going to take us through this one.
Mr. Commissioner, members of the board, Terry Holcomb with your staff. It is not lost on me that this is the last presentation before lunch, so we will try and keep it brief. This is a review of the authority's draft strategic plan 2021 update. This is a board item. We'll ask for board action at the end of the presentation for approval of the strategic plan. We'll just start off and just do a real quick review of the changes that have been made since the 2017 review, and that includes our introductory section, our mission statement, vision statement, and core values. And we will also present the objectives and initiatives that authority staff and your staff have worked together to implement the strategic plan. Real quick, just wanted to kind of go over the history of past strategic plans and where we are today with the current draft. In 2008, your predecessors embarked on the development of the authority's first strategic plan, and that consisted of basically a mission statement followed up with 9 goals and 7 initiatives. Now in 2014, that plan was revised, and the authority came up with their first vision statement, mission statement, and core values. You'll notice that between 2008 and 2014, that was a 6-year span, and Mr. Lehman and Mr. Coates both alluded to the amount of infrastructure development that was happening between those years. We put on the second reservoir, we built out the 24 MGD capacity expansion at the plant. So the boards recognized that updating the goals of the authority needed to be done to recognize the growing regional demands. In 2017, there were very minor changes that were made to the strategic plan, primarily just the vision statement and mission statement had a few little word tweaks, but what was really important in 2017 was that there was a collaborative effort between the authority staff and your staff members to come up with objectives and initiatives that would actually drive the strategic plan. We set milestones to make sure that we were meeting those goals and objectives. So that brings us to 2020. In September, we had a workshop with the board where we recognized the achievements that had been made towards the 2017 objectives and initiatives and solicited recommendations from the board members on the new initiatives to replace those ones that we had completed. So we took those recommendations, revised the strategic plan, presented it to the staff November 4th. then went back to the board on December 2nd for their review and recommendations, at which time you suggested we provide a draft of that strategic plan to the administrators for their review and comment. That happened on December 17th. We resubmitted it to the professional staff on January 13th, and here we are today to approve, hopefully, the final strategic plan 2021 update. So just going over some of those minor changes that were made. The strategic plan had an introductory section. The difference between the 2017 and the 2020 versions were basically, we removed a paragraph in that introductory section that talked about the statutory requirements. We didn't feel it was germane to the strategic plan. We also condensed the overview section to the who we are section you see here, and we added a geographical map of the 4-county region for reference purposes. With respect to the vision statement, the only change that was made was changing the word members to customers, as shown here in red. And the mission statement, we removed the first 4 words, the authority's mission is, because the intent is shown in the statement. With respect to those core values, we had 6 core values in 2017, and we compressed those into 4 for the 2021 revision. And we primarily did that just by combining core values that were of similar intent. You can see we went from cooperation and collaboration as 2 separate core values in 2017. We combined them into 1 and revised the language to reflect those changes. The regionalization and diversification core values, again, were compressed and put into a resiliency core value, and again, the definition updated to reflect those changes. Financial stability primarily remained about the same. We added a few wording to address integrity and transparency in the financial processes. And then the water advocacy core value was updated to include leadership, recognizing the development of leaders within the organization as well as in our community as water advocates. So those are primarily the changes that were made to the vision, mission, and core values. What I want to do now is just really highlight, and I'm briefly highlight, the initiatives and objectives and the changes that have been made since the September 30th workshop. So in the cooperation, collaboration objectives, we have 3 main objectives with 5 initiatives. I'd like to point out that there's a little icon in front of some of those initiatives. It's a little circular icon. And wherever there is an initiative that we feel should be recurring, whether that's on an annual basis or at a specific interval, we've denoted those by that icon. And the very last initiative, I'm just going to point out there, was at the request of the board from the September 30th workshop that we include a board opportunity to review the strategic plan objectives and initiatives. We'll come back every December and present to you how we're doing on meeting those objectives. The resiliency core value, we have 3 objectives with 8 initiatives. I'll call your attention to the 3 recurring initiatives there in the center with our CIP, CNA, and SWIFT cooperative funding requests. And then the board had requested that we add an example for clarity purposes on that first initiative. With respect to the financial stability core value, we have 3 objectives with 6 initiatives. 4 of those initiatives are recurring, and the first initiative there under the second objective, you'll see we added a milestone date of 2023, and that was at the request of your staff. And you'll see that that also matches the 23 milestone date for Initiative 2 under the first one there. Mr. Lehman alluded to the master water supply contract and going back out to revisit that. And those 2 initiatives will tie together with that milestone date. And lastly, the leadership and water advocacy core value. We have 3 objectives and 11 initiatives. 6 of those initiatives are ongoing or reoccurring annually. The last initiative under the second objective there was added at the request of the board at the September 30th meeting, and that's to engage local youth organizations such as 4-H, FFA, educational organizations and facility tours, local STEM events, and career days. So that is just a high overview of the changes that have been made since 2017. This is what I like to call my one-page placemat. It has who we are, our old introductory section, the map of the region, the vision and mission statement are in the center of the map with our 4 objectives or core values flanking the vision and mission statement. So with that, I'm glad to end the conversation and take any questions, comments.
Any questions for Terry? Okay, hearing none.
I got comments, but I'll go after motion.
Okay, well, we have a motion that I'll request, and it's simply to approve Strategic Plan 2021. Motion moved by Commissioner Langford, seconded by Commissioner Truex. We do have some discussion. Mr. Langford, anything?
No, sir.
Mrs. Truex.
Thank you, sir. First of all, great job. I did go through this. I even caught a little mistake on the date on the timeline of 2017. So I was watching for that, and it was repaired. This page is excellent. It really is something that you can have with you in your mind, the forefront all the time. Very, very good. And I also appreciated the compression of the 6 to the 4. It just made logical sense. So I just want to point out, very good job, my staff.
Thank you. Yeah, it was collaborative effort.
Nothing else. I'll just say, every presentation today, it takes quality staff to give these kind of presentations. You all were excellent. And if you remember at the beginning of the meeting, I teased the most recent chairman, Commissioner Dougherty, about his propensity for workshops. It was only teasing because that's how this stuff gets through the system.
He and I are like minds, just to warn you.
Oh, yes. Well, if your requests are as good as his, we're in great shape, buddy. With that, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye, and that item number 4, the regular agenda, moves forward, approved 4-0. General Counsel's report, sir.
I have a lengthy report. There is, at this point, nothing to report. Oh, I make a comment about the last presentation, which was that slide that you had up. If you take strategic plan off the top of it, that should be like our slide that's up in between everything else. In other words, what you put up anytime we're doing presentations or having meetings, that should be up in the background. Because I think it's great. Very well done by staff, and I thought it encapsulated everything the authorities are balanced. It was a really good job. Great slide. I have nothing to report.
Nothing else. Executive Director's report.
We'll let you know that we did make the rounds for all 4 legislative delegations, each of the counties, over December into January. That the governor's proposed budget is out. He does have included in that the $40 million for alternative water supply, which was part of our state priorities. So I'll make sure we give it all the county representatives. Also, Representative Grant has submitted a $200,000 water project appropriation request on behalf of the project, the Prairie Project, that this board submitted to Swiftland and approved prior.
That's it, Pat?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, you'll see inside your packages the routine status reports for your reading pleasure. And with that, let's circle around our group of 4 for any board member comments. Mr. Truex.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Look forward to serving.
Commissioner Cruz.
Same thing. I'm looking forward to this board. It's a dynamic board that has a lot of big regional implications, and I'm looking forward to contributing where I can.
Commissioner Lang.
Congratulations, Kevin, on your new job. We'll still be seeing you, so it's not like you've gone away. And same with Commissioner Dougherty. And in reference to like the workshops and stuff, I have no problem with that. But being as we get work like rented mules around here for no pay, I would like to maybe put it to a motion one day that Pat at least let us fish the old reservoir. I'm with you. Twice a year. We don't. It can always catch and release. And I mean, there's fish over there that need caught. For years they've been caught.
And yes, our executive director, I mean, his review will come up at the end of the year. It actually stopped you from fishing.
That's interesting. Yep, okay.
Okay, we'll make a note of that.
Was it a security risk discussion or? That's it.
Well, with that, next board meeting is with our friends in Charlotte County, and that is on March 31st. You have at the back of your package all the rest of the meetings for the year, and if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Commissioner Cruz? All right, nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you on your way out.
Well, you'll see me.
You'll be around.
So now you're new to him.
Well, brother, thank you.
I didn't take